Howdy, hackers, and welcome to another episode of FairLight TV. Today we have a guest, David Jacoby. You might not know him, but from a Swedish perspective, he's quite a celebrity in the IT security world, but he has his roots deeply rooted in the C64 scene as well. And given that he works as a sysop for on multiple platforms, he's sort of connected with most of the active platforms that are available today. So with David, I've had a long discussion over, the value of original hardware, running the BBSs, what the BBSs are for, his work as in IT security, and especially his TV appearances in the Swedish TV series Hackad. And a number of other things that are also really interesting. So if you would like to join me and David for a good hour and a half of talk, just sit tight and relax and watch, because now comes David Jacoby. Okay, welcome to FairLight TV with David Pewp Jacoby. And to be honest, this is actually the second time around because I messed up last time. We had a very good conversation over Zoom and we recorded everything, and everything was absolutely perfect, except for the fact that I didn't wear my speakerphones, which means that the sound came out in the room, and then it was picked up by the microphone, and then everything David said was muted. So yeah, sorry about that. If you would only listen to me and not David's part, the first version would be okay. But since we sort of prioritize the guest here, we're not going to broadcast that one. So from that very, very long introduction, welcome to David Jacoby.
Thank you so much, Pontus. But I think it's like a Fairlight prank where it's like a crack, you crack the interview. Now you can add whatever kind of subtitles you want to our interview. So every time I say Fairlight is not cool or something else, you just, put whatever subtitles you want.
And the thing that also happened was that I actually interviewed you first, and then just recently we had an episode with Hedning, and now we have an episode with you. So you would have been the first Genesis Project member that would be a guest here, but sort of failed out as well. So sorry about that.
You're losing points over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I'm also being honest about it. So I'm hoping that is sort of the only thing that saves me here. So.
Oh, you're a nice guy. That's kind of the only thing that saves you.
And we are, to be honest, we are also two guys that hang out. And I met your kids, and I played bowling with your kids as well. So we are on that level of friendship.
Yeah, because today my daughter, she was sitting here next to me playing some PlayStation, not C64. Yeah, but she was playing on PlayStation. I was like, you have to leave because I have an interview. And she's like, what kind of interview are you doing right now? You know Pontus, the guy who we went bowling with? He's like, yes. And then suddenly it was okay for me to kick her out. And she's like, yeah, no problem, no problem. It's Pontus.
You have two massively cool kids, so
greetings
to them as well.
Thank you.
So let's dive into the more scene-related stuff here. And David Pewp, Pewp, do take us through Pewp.
So this is, when was this? I was not old. I was sitting at home in my boy room and went on IRC. So I started out on IRC in these different hacking channels, and I call myself speed freak with PH, as in phone hacking, basically. So I was speed freak for a very long time, but then I went to FNet and RCnet, and they had a limitation on the length of the nickname. So when I was joining those IRC servers, I couldn't do speed freak anymore. So I had to figure out something else. And being an immature boy, I was like, well, poop is fine. So I tried to choose the nickname Poop with a normal spelling, Poop, and yeah, of course it was busy. Some stupid bot or something was called Poop. So I was like, fine, Pewp, and then it just stuck for years. I was Poop. So the weird thing was my hacker friends in real life, we actually called, I don't know if you did the same thing, but we called each other by their nicknames. So people would be like, well, mom and dad, I'm going over to Poop's house, you know. That was kind of funny. So even my mom and dad, they knew that I was Poop. Kind of funny.
So it's fair to say it's a shit handle.
It's a shit handle that's stuck with this immature boy as I am. But yeah, it just stuck with me, you know. And then, you know, I started to release stuff like advisories and e-signs and tools and stuff like that. And then, you know, you can't really change. It's just it is who you are. You have legacy behind you, like, oh, I was the guy who released this or found this vulnerability or wrote this code or whatever. Then, you know, it's just you, because if you change name, you will kind of lose that legacy. So yeah, it just became Poop.
I mean, depends on how you see your kind of scene persona. If that is sort of a person that you are impersonating, is that a character you're playing and you can kill it and start a new one? Some seemingly have that idea. For me, it's that might be so, but then I've invested too much in this scene persona to just kill him off and starting a new one from scratch. That would be such a waste. So for me, and also gradually over the years, I would say if there was ever a distance between my scene persona and myself, that has sort of gone away. I mean, being the god of wine and fertility, let's say I picked the name when I was god of none of those. So,
but now when I'm older, so to say, when I kind of rejoin the demo C64 retro kind of scene, I'm not using the handle Poop anymore. I'm using a different nickname for all my BBSs and all that stuff. It's similar. So it's not something completely different, but it's Moop, M-O-O-P instead. It's just something that, you know, it's close enough, but it's not the same thing. And the people who know, they know that, you know, it's both individuals, both personas. But I actually went away because the Poop handle is connected so much into the hacking, cracking, freaking team since, you know, 25 years back. It would kind of be wrong to use that for this purpose. So that's why I went away from that nickname, because it's so related to the hacking scene.
But then you actually have like two personas, one per context, so to speak.
Yeah, because when I actually do join the old hacking communities, the hacking schools, I represent myself as Poop, because then all the other people, they will recognize me. But if I go to Gubdata or some other demo party, I'm not Poop anymore. I'm someone else, because I'm the sysup of Frozen Floppy and Slime City and all these different other boards. You know, then I have that persona.
Well, and let's also say that a number of people are looking back, thinking that they were rather immature when they picked their handles, and would like to change, but it's too late for them to change, and they think they have the silliest handle of all time. But then I always remind them there is Mr. Sex and Dr. Dick, so there is always that next level of embarrassment in picking your handle. So you're not like, the worst one.
What would you say? Dr. Dick is kind of close to Mr. Poop as well. Kind of the same level as I see it, you know.
You're actually in the same territory as E. coli, because that's sort of the bacteria that makes you have diarrhea. So
brother from another mother, you know. It's
my golfing brother. Okay, well, let's. You've already touched on this, that you are sort of rooted in the hacking scene, and that's where you started, and that's where you basically spent most of your time. But so, give us a rough, like a path on your path to the scene, or the C64 scene, or the or computer scene, like demo and cracking part of the scene.
Yeah, so everything started, sitting at home with my computer. And my big brother, he was actually a coder. So he was more connected to your world, so to say, with
Mm,
writing demos, looking at demos. He started out with his Amiga 500, then that became a 1200 and so on. And he actually is still a coder. He's a super skilled coder. But I kind of got interested in different things. It was still coding, but just a different kind of coding. So for me, the challenge was cracking,
mm,
and I connected to all these BBSs, and I found different text files. Mostly it was the phone boxes text files about the different kind of boxes that you can create to modify basically the phone line or the device connected to the phone line. But they didn't really work out in the Swedish environment. So by investigating that way of communication,
mm,
I've found some modifications that you can do. One was the line man's handset, aka the beige box, which basically allowed you to tap into some other person's phone call, phone connection
mm,
via the phone booth that was sitting, by the street or in
mm,
a corner somewhere in your neighborhood. And that opened up a completely different world for me, because then I was like, oh, you can actually accomplish something with technology. You can call for free, or you can do all these different things by modifying it, just a little tweaking something that already exists. So that's kind of how I got into programming. I was like, okay, what other stuff is connected there on the phone line? So I started to war dial my local area, and found companies at that time, because this is way before the internet. So
mm,
companies had their modem somewhere in the basement, and
mm,
it was not just fax machines. It was everything from recycling machines to sales systems, to ordering systems, to all kind of different things. And and that's basically how I got into hacking, because I was starting out just scanning phone numbers in my local area. I was like, okay, now I found all these different devices, these different things. What do they do? How do I
mm,
get access to them? How can I figure out more about this device that just gives me a prompt saying login, or
mm,
authorization code or something like that. Um, and to get more information about cracking or hacking or that kind of IT security, it opened up the world, because it seems like that kind of world was the world where people with advanced computer skills
mm,
communicated.
mm,
And advanced computer skills could be writing demos, cracking games,
mm,
trading software, but also publishing articles about new vulnerabilities or some new code.
mm,
That was where the tech savvy people met. No matter if you were a freaker or cracker or coder or whatever, that was like the way of communication, to find people that was like-minded to yourself.
mm.
And then that took it next level, and we got internet, and that opened up a completely different world. And I got really involved in writing exploits, and reversing software and reversing malware, and it just opened up a completely different world from the old school hacking mainframes and telcos.
So,
um,
I mean, so basically, freaking took you to hacking computers, and is it fair to say that freaking sort of faded when the internet became, because there was no need for well, exploiting the phone system to call for free, because internet gave you you just paid for the access anyway, and then from there it was free.
yeah, I mean, freaking took actually a big, really big leap when people got internet at home, because internet was quite expensive.
Okay.
Same
Okay.
thing
Yeah.
as connecting to a BBS or connecting to another machine. It was just you and your phone, but
Mm,
you were not connected as long as since. I mean, when you got internet, you were connected much longer to the internet
mm,
on the phone line. So freaking actually took a next level because people actually created all these line man's handsets, all these crocodile connectors,
mm, mm,
and tried to get free internet. It was more interesting to get free internet than getting free modem calls. What was interesting back in the day compared to the era of internet is that back in the day you wanted to do long distance calls. You wanted
mm,
to call America or South
mm,
America or Africa or whatever. um, and that's the kind of freaking that allowed you to do that.
mm,
But when internet came, it was everything from copying phone cards that we
mm,
had for a short period of time, or connecting to your neighbor's phone connection, or even finding different kind of telcos that or PBXs that allowed callbacking. So a
mm,
phone exchange server that allowed you to call that local number and have that machine call back to you, because then you wouldn't pay for the call. It
mm.
was that device that was actually paying for the entire time that you were connected. So hacking PBXs with the callback function was super important, because then you basically had free internet for a very, very long time. So freaking actually had a peak, and then when people got a DSL connection or
Yeah.
better broadband connection at home, then freaking kind of died out completely. And
Okay.
it also died out when people got internet.
Summarizing that would be, first it was the predominant driving force was basically being able to communicate long distance, because long distance was silly expensive. And then when you had like the modem part of internet access, there was bypassing that cost. But DSL, then you don't have any metered access, and there is no. The point was not actually to be fraudulent, but to get access to something without paying for it. And what you wanted to get access to was communication. And well, with DSL, you basically had that as the fixed cost per month, and then you could do everything you wanted with no need to kind of exploit anything or be fraudulent in any way.
Yeah, because also one of the biggest benefits with internet, as I saw it at least, was
Mm,
be able to find like-minded people and communicate with people all over the world, and not just to your local area, or traveling to demo parties or hacking gatherings or something like that. Suddenly you could talk to all these people that you just read an article about, or you have that person's software or that person's
mm,
code, and now you can talk to that person,
mm,
mostly on IRC at that time. But that was like, wow, now I can talk to my friend in, well, I don't know, South America,
mm.
and that was really a game changer for the normal geeks that was communicating electronically.
And the term for this is global tribe. You can find your tribesmen globally. You don't need to just look for them in the local vicinity. You can go global with any interest. Pros and cons, because this is also how conspiracy theorists meet and talk. But assuming we are not one of those, it has been really beneficial for people like us.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, you are just over 40, so you were a lot younger than most of the old farts, such as myself. So, I mean, is your brother is older, right? And
Yeah.
he's a contributing factor. So you could be the youngster that he sort of dragged into it, or
It's a combination of my brother and my dad, to be honest. Because my dad, he always worked with computers. He was like a network technician, sysadmin kind of guy. And then my brother was, I mean, spent all his time basically coding and playing around with the computer. I was the black sheep. I was the odd one, because I wanted to be a stuntman. I kind of had two personalities. Yeah, because
no?
in school I was hanging out with all the cool kids, I I drove my moped. I was skateboarding. I was I had girlfriends. That was kind of weird when you were a super geek. I had and in the evening I had this persona where I just spend all my time with the computer. So I was playing Magic the Gathering with my nerd friends. I was hanging out with my cool friends as well. But I had both sides, to be honest. So in the evenings I was this guy writing code, and couldn't really talk to anyone else about this because my friends didn't really code, or they didn't even playing Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering. That was a no-go. So I kind of hid that from them, and then I had my other friends who are the other nerds, and that it was, I got best of two worlds, to be honest.
So you were Dr. Jacoby and Mr. Hyde.
Yes. It's funny, when I met the mother of my children, and even my fiance now, I explained, like, in the beginning when I met my children's mother, I explained to her, like, I'm a nerd. I spend a lot of time with the computer, hacking, and she's like, there's no way, absolutely no way that you're a computer nerd. And now when I met my fiance now, because we divorced afterwards, but now I met my fiance, which you also met, Pontus, right?
Yes, very early in your relation as well. So
yeah, you were one of the few who got introduced to my now fiance, and I explained to her, because when we're all adults and we meet, they're like, oh, what do you do for a living, and so on, and I really tried to explain what I do for a living, and she was like, what, so you don't have a real job? What the fuck do you actually do? You hack into machines, and what do you actually do?
It would be so easy to be one of those jobs that you can explain to somebody. I can barely explain it to myself. So and I guess you are at the same position. It's basically impossible to answer that question. It's like, I work with computers. That's all you need to know, unless you want to sit here listening for 2 hours. I don't have an elevator pitch on summarizing what I actually do.
And I remember the first time she saw me actually doing a penetration test, ethical hacking, penetration test. She was like, "It's insane," because she never seen people like us, who just zone out and just say, "Fuck the world. We don't care. We don't care about anything." She could wander around naked. She could do whatever. I don't care. I'm here. I'm looking at this code. I'm doing this thing right now for several days. This is what I'm doing. I have 40 hours now for this gig. I'm not doing anything else. I barely eat. Give me something to drink and I'm happy. That's it.
Coffee keeps me awake throughout, and then that's all I need, and an eventual technical break every now and then, but that's it. So
but I guess everyone who's been like either cracking something or figuring out a programmatic challenge, some writing some code or something, they know what we're talking about. You just zone out. This is you and the code. That's it.
I have this when I hear birds singing outside, I know that this will be a very tough day. I overspend the night now. So,
but you look at the time, it's like, oh, it's 10:30 or something. You're like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll manage. And then you're like, oh crap! Like you can't see the code anymore because the sun is in your face. You're like, oh, God damn it! What happened?
Okay, but I mean, CSDB, the hacking scene is one thing, but CSDB, they don't really list any roles that you had on the C64. So what has been your roles in the groups you have been? And that is only covering the C64. So please elaborate on all the other places you have been as well.
In the hacking scene or in the...
No, more computer scene-ish.
Oh, so I was one of the founding members for a group called hack.se.
Yes.
Which is I should say a loose community of people interested in computer security, but that's not really true. It's a very, very small, strict group of individuals who are interested in computer security, and there's a huge hang around. So the core member of hack.se is not many people. But we didn't have an agenda really. We didn't do anything besides share information with each other. So all the members in hack.se could potentially be members of hacking groups or demo groups or whatever. So hack.se, it is a place where we just met, but it was kind of an invite-only place.
And it's an IRC channel, right?
Yeah, it started out on IRC, but then it just became this. It's so important for my life, to be a part of hack.se, because some of my closest friends today in real life are the people I met from hack.se. Some of the knowledge that I use in my profession today is the knowledge that I learned from individuals in hack.se, and it was just a really big part of my life. And I think you can compare it to probably some of the demo groups in no matter what platform. Is like some of the people that you meet through your hobby, they are closer than, I should say, any girlfriend or any, like, even some relatives. It's just some people just becomes best friends, which is kind of amazing, to have that experience.
Well, I mean, to me, it's I normally make the distinction computer friends and friends with computers. Computer friends it's like school friends. As long as you have the commonality, the school or the hobby, you are friends with them, and you could be rather good friends, but still schoolmates. When school ends, you never see them again. A number of those, but then you have friends with computers. They are the friends that you would have regardless. You can do other things like playing bowling where they're kids, and you don't really need to mess with computers just because you also have that as a common hobby.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. But then I was also part of a group called Synergy. Synergy was an international hacking group. When I say hacking group, I'm not talking about a group of individuals hacking into other systems. For me, hacking is something completely different. That hacking into a system, breaking into a system, stealing data or whatever, that's a criminal act. When I say hacking, it's more about solving challenges and writing code that either makes something better or utilizes one of these flaws or something. It's like hacking for me is problem solving, basically. And this group, we focused on exploit development. So we found vulnerabilities in some really prominent software like Apache and SendMail and local, like the Linux kernel and stuff like that. That was a pretty intense group, to be honest. And some of the individuals from Synergy, that's people that most of us know about. That's kind of fun. Also with hack.se, some of these individuals from these groups, they turn out to be, I shouldn't say rock stars, but they in the infosec community, it's some, they have started some of the biggest IT security companies in the world, which is really cool to see, like the transformation from this teenage kid to the CEO of this massive company with like hundreds of employees with a revenue of billions of dollars. Like, I remember that kid crying out on IRC about, a girlfriend didn't want to date her, or he broke up with a girlfriend with 14 years old. And now it's like this massive CEO. It's kind of crazy.
How many are sort of open with their history, and how many would like to kind of keep it concealed?
That's a good question. I think nowadays a lot of people are quite open with their history, but of course, if you're 25 writing exploits under a specific name and also being the CEO of a security company, protecting companies from vulnerabilities, it kind of contradict each other. You used to be this guy releasing tools that could be used to break into systems, and now you have this company doing this thing. But now it's been such a long time from being 14 years old, so yeah, I don't think people care
Well,
that much.
you can't even be punished by the law. So if you're that young, so it's, I mean, statute of limitation, I think it's called, when something you did back then, the possibility to pursue you for that expires. Not all jurisdiction has that for all crimes. For instance, in Sweden, we don't have it for murder anymore. We used to have it also for murder. It was 25 years, but if you did a murder and then 25 years passed and you weren't caught for it, there was no way to kind of hunt you afterwards either. So 25 years was the expiry date. But this is still interesting because, I mean, there is still an issue, the white hat and red hat, because, I mean, if you are breaking into a system without doing anything, you could, I mean, you didn't destroy anything, you just researched, but it'd still be illegal, right?
Oh yeah, by for sure. So even if you break into a system,
Yeah.
even if you let's say that you telnet to, I don't know, FairLight.com or whatever, okay? And you're presented this prompt and you try, I want to log in with username admin and password admin. That is illegal because it's not your system. It's like opening the front door of a house and walking in. You can't just do that, it's not your property to log into. So even if the sysadmin did some really messed up stuff and had super bad security, it's not your system. You're not allowed to be there. But what happened in the end of the 90s is companies, I shouldn't say that they wanted it, but there were ethical hacking at that time. So I think it's different from, the old school hackers from the late 70s and beginning of 80s. We didn't really have ethical hacking at that time, but in the 90s, end of 90s, ethical hacking was a thing. It started to become more mature. The industry was more mature, so you could actually hack legally. And that was a game changer for me, because I got my first job at the same time as I went to high school. The first year of high school, I hacked into a company, which I was actually, I didn't really hack into them because I was a customer of their platform. And at that time, you actually got a telnet access into that platform. So I had telnet access as my own user, found a vulnerability that could allow me to elevate access to root access with administrative access. And I emailed and it's like, hey, I'm not root on your system and you have to fix this. And then they said, well, we can pay you 4,000 kroner a month and you can fix it yourself. You can become the sysadmin of our machine. So they paid me 4,000 kroner a month when I was 15. And that's like a bazillion money,
And this is 400 euros or 400 US dollars or thereabout. And this was a number of years ago. So given inflation, it was a lot of money from, I mean, given your age and all of that. So
yeah, because I think I had 650 kroner per month. But now I had 4,650 kroner per month, which is like a massive amount of money. I could do whatever I want, I had so much money.
No wonder you can hang out both with the nerds and the cool kids. So
I spent all my money on cigarettes and crap, But then, I had a big break because I was one of those persons who also, worked really hard for my career and did all that stuff. And then as an old fart, I was like, I still had all these memories from the childhood with the BBSs and the hacking community and all that. So I became a member in Genesis project as a sysop. hosting a C64 BBS. But that was actually before. So I first started a Facebook group called Retro Computers for Sale, basically,
Mm.
because I was so tired of the other vintage or retro groups just selling Nintendo and Sega and all that
Mm.
crap. I was like, there's no group for computers. I don't care
Mm.
about the Nintendos. I want to have the Ataris, the Amigas, the
Mm.
Commodores, the ZX Spectrums. I want to have all that stuff. So I started this group, and it was really slow in the beginning, but now I think we're close to 10,000 members in that group. And you're
And
one.
it's I mean Swedish speaking, right? So it could be a number of Danes and Norwegians and all of that, but predominantly Swedish. So yes, yes, it's a really good one, and very strict buying and selling rules. I mean, there are always a number of scumbags, and they have no chance of kind of getting away with it, fooling any of the members, because everybody will know immediately. And if you fool anybody inside this group, you are screwed forever. There
But
is no
there's
way.
this saying in the group. I don't know. You probably know what I mean. Like, so if someone is trying to sell, let's say they're trying to sell a bread bin, a C64 bread bin,
Yeah.
and they write in the description, "It worked the last time I started it." I was like, that's bullshit. That was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
No, you try it out, you test
Yeah. Yeah.
and you add that into the description. You can't sell something and say it worked for me the last time I used it, because that was 25 years ago. So that's crap. It is a fun group, and what I also like is it's a very friendly group. It's not just
Yeah.
for selling and buying. It's we donate to charity, we help each other,
Yeah.
and it's also finding again the tribe that you said. It is
Yeah.
it is really the tribe for old farts, demo coding or hacking, and people like us.
Well, I mean, there are two aspects of this. First of all, is the hoarding aspect, and let's park that one for a few seconds. But no, the other that you are pointing out is that my scene is sort of the computer scenes where people are coding demos or cracking games and that. And through this retro community, a number of the people who are interested in the physical hardware have also sort of gotten involved in the my scene, and normally they would be very distant, and I think this is also sort of one of the contribution of this particular Facebook group.
Yeah, because with today's technology, you can take that old hardware and actually boost it in a way that's never been done before. Just look at the BBS that I have in my cellar. It's connected to the internet. I have a Commodore 64 connected to the internet. What the crap? I mean, that was not possible before. Now
Right, and we have to park that one as well, because we are getting into the system. But let's pick up the hoarding part. One of the the aspects of buying and selling. There are a number of people who are buying ludicrous amounts of hardware just to store them in basements and garages. And we're not naming anyone, but one
you know
particular
who
guy.
you are. You
Yeah,
know who you
you
are.
know who you are.
We know who you are.
You who have a father in the UK and who filled all the compartments that you could possibly bring up in Sweden, and then shipping stuff to his poor dad in the UK, storing it there as well. Like, what? You don't need them. You really don't.
No, but it's nice to have.
No.
Content is nice to have.
Yeah, I
It's
have
like Hamlet's copy of Last Ninja.
Yeah, I mean, there are aspects of the scene that we appreciate, or aspects of the community, and you can choose which aspect is important to you. And we are getting to the BBS side, and that is one thing you can sort of do, and you can crack games, or you can treasure the physical hardware and have like one copy of every sort of generation of the C64, or every generation of the Atari, or every release of Last Ninja, or a physical copy of Gianna Sisters signed by Chris Hulsbeck, or I mean, there are aspects of this world which you can dive into and be an ultra nerd. So we are all nerds, but you can find a subset of that little world and make that one yours. And to be honest, having the most hardware is not really my aspect of it. That's not where I'm going to invest my time or money. Sorry.
I remember we talked about that in the previous interview where you basically said that, you know, hoarding is just, it's not your thing, and you have one Commodore and that's it, you know. And you know, now I have this Frankenstein behind me, but last time I had, you know, all my Commodores and all my Ataris and all Amigas and all my stuff behind me, and we had a great discussion about it. And I just want to recap on that, because I also think it's kind of the same way as some people buy an old moped and they fix that moped. They go out because they want to spend some time. That moped is completely useless in a practical way, because now you can have, you know, an electric scooter, or you can have a car or whatever, you know. It's not about that. It's about the nostalgia. It's about getting your time to do something that you really enjoy doing. And for me, it's also about the aesthetics, you know. I have boxed version of all the Commodores, and all the Amigas and all the Ataris, because it's aesthetic, you know. I have them on my altar, as my wife called it. It's like, this is your altar, and I have my Atari 2600, my Amiga 600, my 1200, 4000, you know. It's all nicely put there with lighting and everything. And
yeah, but then it's a museum. Then you're actually showing them. But if you have 25 of them in the garage, that is different.
But people, it's also about collecting. You know, people collect stamps, or I don't know. I collect movies. So my other thing is I collect movies, and I'm talking about movies on VHS tapes and Laserdisc and Betamax, and you know, it's not just DVD and Blu-rays. No, and I have the same copy, not the same, but I have the same movie, but different cuts, like the Chainsaw Massacre or Friday the 13th. You know, I don't know how many copies of that movie. You know, I have it on all formats, everything. It's just a thing, you know. There's something different with each copy.
Yeah, but would you want like 50 VHS, same edition, same everything? It's just 50 of them.
No,
I get the Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, German edition, or like, because I would like all the different ones. But if you have 50 of the very, very same, that is not the same.
No, but I'm still intrigued with the people who do that, you know.
Yeah.
I was one of them. I was like, well, of course I want to have one more, because maybe the box itself is in better shape than the other boxes that I have. Or, you know, you can, because when you buy these things, you don't really know what you're buying, because the quality of the machine that you're buying could be different, you know.
Yeah.
You're just laughing. Fuck off, man.
I can emulate millions of machines, so I have more than you.
So machines in one machine.
Yeah. Okay, let's do sit-sopping then, and then the hardware should be original, but it's okay to connect it via some little Raspberry Pi using a homemade bridge using a Raspberry Pi. So it's okay to move the BBS into the future by connecting it to the internet.
It absolutely is.
That was a question. It didn't sound like a question, but it sort of is.
Sounds like one of your strict, was it like not feelings, but your you have strong what's the English word for it? Crap, man. Ideas, thoughts,
Yeah.
opinions.
I
That's it.
might have a few of those. Yes.
Yes, you have a bag full of every time you wake up in the morning, it's like, how many opinions should I pack
Yeah.
with today? How
And
about
if
a million of opinions every single?
and if you don't like them, I have others.
Yeah, you're hoarding opinions.
I do. Yes. Yes.
But okay, sysopping, yes, it is okay because you're also allowing people to experience something that maybe they haven't experienced before.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons. But since you physically can't, basically depends on where you live, of course. But in
Mm.
Sweden, where I live and you live, you can't connect a Commodore 64 to the normal, telephone line because it's
Mm.
all digital.
Mm.
Maybe it works with some tweaking or some whatever kind of thing, but we are very digital right now. I don't know if the analog phone network is still up and running, but the internet, allows us to connect to other machines and making it available for people who can just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Nostalgia.
Well, I mean, to be honest, that is actually a fair argument. If it doesn't work, if it's technically not possible to do it the old way because the world around changed, you need to have a bridge through that world around where you connect one thing to that thing via a new way. Even if the experience of the BBS is the same, you cannot use a modem because modems don't work anymore, given that phone lines don't work as they used to. So.
But I mean, I've seen some BBSs they took the old C64 BBS, the machine itself, and they upgraded it to this monster with super CPU and I mean the baud rate that you use, the speed of connecting to the machine, downloading stuff, and the different BBS screens, they just flash, you can't really see them. And for me, that it takes away a little bit of the spark, because for me it's 9,600 bauds per second. Period. That is the magic number. If you go above, then you're talking more about Amiga and PC boards. But the C64 BBS is 9,600 bauds per second. That's it.
Yeah, but that is still also using sort of extra hardware because the original one was still 2,400. That was everything you could do on the stock machine.
No, you could do 9,600 on the cartridge port.
Yeah, but then you need Silver Surfer or any of the you need additional hardware. It's not just the modem. You need a special interface that does the serial to parallel conversion.
Exactly, like a Silver Surfer or a Swift Link or something. But that was still possible back in the day for some sysups. But that was for me the maximum baud rate that you could go. You couldn't really go that much higher. But I do enjoy. What I do enjoy is that it's technically possible that you could actually, with some modification, of course, which is still considered. I shouldn't say original modifications, but it's not something external that really makes the machine that much faster. It is an external CPU or something like that, but it's still considered as an old, like the super CPU. That's an old device that you can connect to the Commodore. It's not something that's built now in 2023.
And where do you draw the line? I mean, if you connect a PC using some sort of there is this C64 HDD, I think it's called, which makes it possible to use a PC as a storage device. Would that be okay to have like infinite storage using that, or where is sort of where do you draw the line of when it's C64 BBS and where it has become something else?
I think that's a very individual question, but if you ask me, since you're interviewing me, I would say that
I'm actually asking you.
Yeah, you have to. I think I draw the line when you go outside the original hardware. So I have basically infinite storage because I have a CMD HD connected to my Commodore 64, but in the CMHD, I replaced a hard drive with an SD card or a compact flash card, which basically gives me, I shouldn't say unlimited because there's still a a limit on the different partitions that you can use, but it still gives me much more space than the original version of few megabytes. But I draw the line when you. So are you saying that you will still have a Commodore 64, but you will have the storage on a PC? Yeah, no, I want to have the original hardware. Then if you can tweak that little hardware a little bit, then that's okay for me. That's because I know that there's some people emulating the BBSs completely, in the C64 emulator, and fine, you can do that. But for me personally, it was the challenge to get the machine online to the internet. That was part of the challenge. If you take away that challenge from me, it's not as fun. I was sitting at home soldering my own RS-232 adapters to get my machine online because I couldn't find those Silver Surface or a Swift link. So I was like, okay, I saw this guide on the internet where you can solder a very simple device connected to the user port. And with that device, you can connect it to a Raspberry Pi, which acts as a modem, basically a modem emulator. But that was the challenge, to get it online. And Frozen Floppy, like one of the BBSs that I have, which is a Commodore 64 BBS, that was one of the few BBSs at that time. It's been online for a very long time. Now there's more machines out there because some use virtualization and some use also like this Ultimate 64. Like, is it okay to run Ultimate 64 where you basically can emulate a super CPU and you have like massive transfer speed and all that? That's okay if you like that, but for me, I want to have the original stuff. Like I'm kind of not even a fan of Jiffy DOS, but the BBS is complete crap without that. It takes forever to just transfer files and do any file operations without that. So yeah, Jiffy DOS on original hardware. That's what I want to have.
Okay, well, I mean, Jiffy DOS is sort of the same age as the other CMD devices, or the CMD devices. So I mean, most people wouldn't have a CMD hard disk without having Jiffy DOS. So you can have a Jiffy DOS without the hard disk, but you cannot really have the hard disk without Jiffy DOS. Nobody would have that.
No, I mean one of the devices that I bought to my BBS is also RAM Link, and the RAM Link, of course, you can put the BBS or some stuff in RAM, which increases the loading speed and file access really much, but it also has built-in Jiffy DOS. So any file operations that you have to do, like for example, BBS, requires Jiffy DOS basically. But for me, it's important to have the original hardware. That's kind of what turns me on as a sysop. I want to have the original version. I'm thinking about setting up some other BBSs. I have a few. I have the Atari one, I have the C64 one, and I have a PC one. And the Amiga one is like, okay, should I use the original version of CNET or AMI BBS or AMI Express? Or should I use the ones that's being developed now? Because some of these software, including C-Base for Commodore 64, they have a community. People are still developing and making that software better for every day. But I'm using the old original version and not the new one. And so my BB is full of bugs that's fixed in the newer version. But yeah, I don't know. I still haven't decided yet.
Well, I mean, to be honest, there is a bit of an issue with uptime and availability and all of that. So if you care about uptime, at least trying to keep up with updates of the original. I guess software doesn't need to be from the 80s to be okay. There has been a few programs that are good that they have been developed a bit later, I guess. So.
Yeah, but uptime when it comes to BBSs is the problem with uptime is that there's so much shit on the internet that's crashing the board. So, and I don't think you can really fix it with because it's also about the file operations. You know, when you have someone logging in, and it's very easy to actually crash the program, because you can't have that many threads as a normal PC, like a normal modern PC, and so on. It just doesn't
Yeah,
really work.
one thread.
Yeah, it
That's
doesn't.
it's a single thread thing. So,
Yeah, it
but I
doesn't
mean,
really work. You
what
know.
what normally crashes? Is it the interface, the internet interface, or is it the C64 program itself that
No,
crashes?
it is the interface. It is the R232, connection that kind of breaks. And so the
Okay.
modem, let's call it drivers,
Mm,
they've been upgraded. So that's one of the reasons why I want to change to a newer version of Seabase, because even
mm,
those have been upgraded, and there was apparently a lot of bug fixes in the Haze
mm.
modem driver, that's been fixed now.
Okay.
Making
Well,
transfer more stable, and file corruption and all that stuff has been fixed. So that's, yeah.
I guess that sounds like a good thing. I know. I mean, one of the things with BBS is that they are still used for releasing the commercial software. If you look at places like CSDB, you will not find download links to the current version. Those programs still sold for money, but they are happy to share links with anything that's sort of not sold or was sold a long time ago. But so this is also where the BBS is come into play, and there is a first release list of people of the groups that release software first, and for that it's important that you upload to a number of BBSs, because there is a very complex system of uploading to a number of BBSs, and if you have a majority of BBSs first, then your release is seen as the first one. So, I mean, the availability here is sort of imperative. The system had to be so much more complex than it was originally, because not all BBSs are available because they are dormant or crashed or busy or so. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
but we talked about that before, and I think that you should have some kind of system where you can basically state, like, okay, now we have a
mm,
cracked version of this game. The
mm,
crack includes this trainer, and this plus whatever number.
mm,
We've fixed this many features in the code, whatever. Some release information, and then
mm.
the time. Because then you're not basing the time on the BBS upload.
Yeah.
But I still like the idea that some cracked commercial game is not available on the internet.
Yeah, that part I fully accept, actually, to keep it between inside a very small community for a period of time, and give the legal producers the right to sell it for a period of time. It's not 75 years or as demanded by copyright, but let's say a year or two, or whatever sort of the relevant commercial lifespan of a game is. So
But also some of these BBSs is invite only as well. If you look
yeah.
at my BBS, yeah, you can request access to the BBS, but there's no guarantee
Mm,
that I will allow you to the BBS. So
yeah.
and that's also something that I like as well. Like, as a sysup, it's my responsibility to have users who are active, and allow again with the tribe,
Mm,
because every BBS has its own atmosphere. Some are very open, some are closed, some are more elite than others, and it kind of it's the persona of the sysup that
mm,
it's put on the BBS, because a BBS, of course, just if you look at the communication and file transfer, you can do that on the internet. But it's also about the graphics. It's like coming into someone's house.
mm,
Oh, you've designed your house in this way with this art and this whatever kind of things. That's how I see a BBS. When I log
mm,
into a BBS for the first time, I was like, okay, this is the persona of the sysup.
mm.
Sysup want to have this graphic, this color scheme, this whatever, and some BBSs is just crap,
Mm,
according to me. I was like, this is ugly, is crap. I can't navigate in the menu system. I can't find the information that I want to have. Then it's not a BBS on my top list. While others are like just mesmerizing what kind of graphics the system has put in place and the functions, and there's a lot of homebrew, a lot of coding. So it's not just, oh, I'm installing this software, pressing next, and then I have a BBS. No, it's like building your own house and designing your own house and putting your own atmosphere into the BBS.
So, and Frozen Floppy also is on the C64, and the other ones that you were having was an Atari one. What's the name of that one?
The Tribe is running on a Atari 1040 STE. That one crashes all the time, and now when I'm renovating my house, it's actually offline. So the way I'm going to fix that is I'm going to, again, cool with new functionality. Since I have this modem gateway, this Raspberry Pi, I can put extra security into that one. So what I'll be doing is that if there's a bot connecting to the BBS, that will stop, because I'll basically put a CAPTCHA, so to say. So when you telnet to that specific port, you would have to enter a password or a number or whatever kind of thing that comes on the screen. And not until you do that, you'll actually get the connection to the Atari machine, because that one is super unstable. It's very unstable.
So is that the software on the actual Atari that is the BBS software?
Again, it is the modem driver, because when you connect, and if you don't disconnect correctly, the BBS will hang itself, because you need that 88 ATH, 88 plus plus. You need that. Without that, you're screwed. And then if you don't have the ADZ afterwards, you're screwed. You need that.
Okay, so Atari, and you didn't have an Amiga, right?
The Iron Vomit is the name of the Amiga one, but that's in production. So that's I'm still building that one, putting my feelings, my atmosphere, my design into that one.
So well, let's go back. So the C64, that runs on original C-Base.
Yeah, original
Professor Plum or whatever his name is.
No, it's Tao from Triad who actually owns the right for C-Base. So he made the last real version of C-Base. It's 3.66.
But the original is Professor Plum, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is sort of a name I associate with C-Base. I'm not sure if I'm totally off here, but
I don't remember who made the actual first version, but I know that Tao bought the rights for C-Base and was released a version 3.6.6, and then Holy Moses did like tons of different mods now in the modern world.
Is he selling them, or
no?
He's offering it as a binary download, or could you also get the basic code directly from him without reversing it?
No, you have to reverse it. It uses this
it's like Blitz or Astro Speed or whatever.
It's blitzed. Yeah. No,
so it's actually a BBS system written totally in, or predominantly in BASIC, and then you blitz it, and that's so you compile it so it runs a bit faster, and
and also with the modem drivers, there's of course some assembly, because you need to communicate directly with the hardware. But it's basically basic code. So Holy Moses, he did an amazing job just reversing 3.66, and then he made tons of different fixes to that.
All right, and the Atari then, what was the software there?
That is BBS Express on the Atari one. I'm really trying to get a software called Ratsoft to work on the Atari, because that was the so-called elite BBS software for Atari machines. But on my machines, it just crashes. I have not got it to work. So at the moment, the Atari BBS, it is up and running with the BBS Express.
Is that related to the Army Express and PC Express and
Not really. It actually is completely different. But
Okay.
on the Commodore 64, you have a software called CNET,
Mm,
Z-net,
yeah.
which you can run on Commodore 64 and Amiga. And they're both developed. The Amiga version is actually also developed now in a modern time, so to say. There's some really cool CNET BBSs on running on Amiga
Mm,
nowadays. Um, so my idea was actually to either do CNET or the latest version of Ami Express, because
mm,
Ami Express was the BBS software
mm,
for the Amiga computer back in the day. Specifically, if you were doing trading, basically file sharing, wares,
mm,
because you had really good ability to do scripts and add-ons for that BBS software. So you had different kind of prompts with statistics, like top lists, so to say. So you can see who is the fastest uploader or who's downloading the most software, and it was a really had really good add-ons. While CNET is more about communication, talking,
mm,
message boards, and stuff like that. I mean, for me, now I want to have both. So
mm.
I need to find a software that both has the message boards and have the wares, because I cannot just run a wares BBS in 2024. Just won't work. I'll
Mm.
probably won't get that Amiga machine up running until next year anyway. So
Okay, and the Amiga, would that be running on CNET or what was or Ami Express? Where are you
yeah, I
going
don't
with
know
that one?
yet. So I don't know, because both of them has native telnet now, which is
Mm.
kind of cool. So so the hardware that I'm going to choose for the Amiga BBS is, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you. Um,
All the best.
Thanks. I'm going to have a Amiga.
I get that itch as well when somebody mentions Atari, so it's
Yeah, we start to talk about Atari, so I was like, my eyes are watering. It's like, yeah, guess kind of an allergic reaction. No,
so and yeah, what about PC? Nothing on PC or no,
wait,
you had a Macintosh, I think, as well,
yeah,
right?
wait. So the Amiga BBS will be on a Amiga 4000 with the Xsurf Ethernet card. Um, 03 030
Mm.
CPU. So but yeah, it will be on that machine. And yeah, the Mac BBS it moved home, but it's up and running. So it's now in my office. I have
Mm.
an office here in Aarhus where I live, because I'm renovating my man cave right now. So it moved houses. It's on a Mac Globe, with a globe. It's called the Globe Mac. It's one of the
Oh yeah. The little white thing, and then there is like an antenna, and the screen sits on the
yeah,
antenna,
and
sort of.
you can move the screen in any way around it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm one of the few persons who are actually running a BBS on a Mac OS. Mac OS 9. It still lives. Mac OS 9.
And what software are you running for that?
Very good question. I have to Google that. Give me 1 second.
You can telnet to it and ask it.
It's Her Hermes. Her
Yeah.
Hermes.
Yeah, like the spice or
Yeah.
the Roman god. I don't know if it's Greek or Roman, to be honest, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's a god's name as well, and I'm absolutely sure there is perfume named that as well. So
Yeah.
okay, should we? Was there anything more on BBSs that we should mention?
No, I just really like the fact that people today are still putting BBSs online, because
Yeah.
again, it's not about downloading movies or downloading files or downloading games and apps,
Mm,
and it's this atmosphere where you can see into someone else's creation.
mm,
It is really like that, because a BBS is not just next, 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 and you're done. It's about, customizing it in exactly the way that you want it.
Yeah. Well, I can subscribe to that idea, but going back like 20 times or 3 times a week, that's where it's getting a bit difficult. I don't really have time to look at people's houses that often.
No, I'm still planning to put the FairLight world headquarter BBS online for everyone.
Yeah, in Åhus.
Yeah. Yes.
Great. So, and let's move into two other parts. First, what we will save to last is your elaboration of the perfect man cave. But we are taking something else first, and that is your professional life. So you have been in IT security now for 25 years. You've been head of research at one of the leading firms in the area, and you're now sort of a gun for hire, I guess. And you also have like a media side to you. You have been one of the main characters in Swedish TV production Hacked. Uh, so feel free. Where do you want to open this box? Which end of it would you like to go first?
Well, you can do I'll give you the boring elevator pitch.
Hmm?
No, it's for me, it's also fun to see that hacking and IT security, is now pop culture
Hmm?
almost, because when I grew up, no one was talking about hacking. It was just
Hmm?
nerds,
Hmm?
nerds and geeks that was talking about hacking. Now we have a war, that
Hmm?
started with cyber,
Hmm? Hmm?
it's part of our daily lives. We actually the digital transformation that we are experiencing, where cybersecurity now suddenly affects the real world. It's kind
Hmm?
of crazy. We saw Coop 2 years ago. That was kind of, you couldn't buy groceries in the grocery store because they were affected by ransomware.
Hmm?
What the hell is happening? I
Hmm?
remember when someone hacked into Telia and changed it to Felia, and we were all laughing like, ha ha ha, that was fun.
Hmm?
Now it's a completely different business. Another thing is also that, they if you look at the digital transformation that we experience, I see it as a pyramid. In the 80s and 90s, we started like, oh, of course we want to be digital. What if we could communicate digitally? What if we get a video conference? We really tried to become more digital because we trusted IT.
Hmm?
IT was something like, oh, of course we want to have our papers and our records and our things stored in a file server or in a database or whatever, because we trust in that.
Hmm?
Then we're on the peak of this pyramid, and we're like, crap. We start to see that we couldn't really trust IT.
Hmm?
And Pontus, today, would you say that you trust the things that you see on the internet today? Do you trust IT? Do you trust IT systems? Do you trust the data that you see in the news or on Facebook or wherever? Do you trust data?
No. I mean, my data I seriously don't trust because I had a ransomware attack on my QNAP. I had a UPnP enabled, and then suddenly I couldn't have done anything except disabling the UPnP in my router. But since that was open, that meant that my QNAP had a vulnerability, which made it open. So I have a little collection of movies and TV series, and they were all gone. So just formatting the hard disk and start from scratch because that collection was worth absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But those were things that I could sort of fetch back if I feel it's important. That was more my digital hoarding rather than. So I do have that. I just don't do it physically. I do it logically.
Yeah, but you see my
But
point, right? You see
yeah,
my
yeah, for
point that
sure. Yeah, yeah.
we
So that is data. I don't trust data to be stored. I would like to have a system where I store important stuff in multiple locations because I don't trust one single location enough. Not even in my own house, especially not in my own house, to be honest. And then news. I mean, with deep fakes and news outlets and people being able to change. Yeah. Mm, mm. It's getting more difficult.
it is absolutely getting more difficult, and the consequences of bad security
Mm,
is really bad, to be honest. But what's also happening is that you and me and our whoever colleagues and our friends and
mm,
family, they also talk about passwords and
mm,
security and
mm,
identity theft, and IT security is
mm,
becoming much more mature. And we've seen that, now we can see hacking in movies, in books,
mm,
in magazines. Like I was the advisor for the three Millennium books,
mm,
episode 4, 5, and 6, that was written by David Lagercrantz, and he wanted to have an ethical hacker design all the stuff that Lisbeth Salander was hacking, basically, because he wanted it to be authentic and not science fiction.
mm,
So hacking in movies and pop culture is not science fiction anymore. It is real,
mm,
we see it on TV, in, like as you said, they mentioned it in Hackad,
mm.
that when we was filming the first episode, just got released on Iceland. It's like it's part of our IT security, and hacking is part of our lives, even if we want it or not. And I think that is actually a cool development that's been happening.
Well, I mean, to be honest, back in the days, the party that was sort of exposed to any cyber crime, they were the larger corporations. Nobody attacked like Svea 87, but she's targeted today from multiple locations. People are calling her from India, saying that they should fix her computer, which is also sort of part of this. And you have false news being spread, and inside communities people are using their IT resources to change elections by influencing individuals to speak in certain topics. So that's sort of, it's not IT security per se, but it's really close, but because it's something that's facilitated and enabled by IT infrastructure in between, so to distribute messages that are misleading or
But what also happened, which I think is interesting, and I want to just connect back to one of the first things that we talked about in this episode, and that is when I said, I was a kid, I was sitting at home, I was doing phone phreaking, and
mm,
I got, prompted this I got this black screen with white text
mm,
saying log in, and then I had to figure out a username or whatever. And I was trying, admin, password admin.
mm,
This is 25 to 30 years ago.
mm.
What do you think we will try today? If I do a pen test next week, what is the first username and first password that I would try, 30 years later? Is
Yeah.
admin or admin password. So
Or it's summer 123.
summer 2020
Yeah.
exclamation mark one. And it's funny that you mentioned this, because I mean, we in the security industry have to take a lot of responsibility on why we have bad security. And when
Mm,
I say bad security, it's bad behavior of security.
mm,
Because we in the industry, we've been telling people this exact phrase: a strong password is a password that has a capital letter.
mm,
It has numbers
mm,
and special characters.
mm.
So if you look at every single person who creates their own password, they will start their password with a capital letter, and they will
Yes.
use a word, because you say password, so they will use a word.
Oh.
After that word, they will put a number.
Mm,
In most cases, that is a year. So it's
mm,
4 digits, right? After that number, you will say you need to have a special character exactly in that order. And the first thing that people think about when they say special character is exclamation
Exclamation
mark.
mark.
Of course. So we know as hackers that if I want to generate a cracking rule, a password cracking rule, brute forcing rule, it's a capital letter in the beginning, it's a word, it's a year, and there's an exclamation mark. And then some people say, well, Mr. David, I'm wild and crazy and I don't want to follow those rules. So I will put an extra character at the end of my password, or the company says you have to change password every 90 days or whatever. So you will put a number 1 after the exclamation mark. That's how we've been telling people to do passwords, and we know that that's in general how passwords look like. Password management is not complicated. We just believe that IT security is so complicated, but it's not really complicated.
And we haven't evolved in 25 years. We're still using the same lame passwords as default, unless the system stops us from using those.
And also coding, if we talk about vulnerabilities, from my point of view, when it comes to coding, we as developers, there's one golden rule I would like to give to every developer, and that is input validation. Don't add extra layers of shit, work on your input validation. If you have a variable and that variable is an age, you cannot be, you cannot have an age of 5,000 digits or characters long. Your age is maximum 3 digits, that's it. So that will limit even if there's a fault in the input validation, the length of that variable is only 3 digits long, okay?
Yeah.
3 characters long. So you cannot inject code that's longer than 3 characters. Of course, that's not a golden rule, but it's just look on a logical point of view. This is my variable. This is the content I want to have in my variable, and work with that. That will solve a lot of problems. Buffer overflows and heap overflows has caused so much problems in the world. If we just limit the buffers to what we expect, what kind of data that we expect that will be sent to us, it will solve so much things.
So, but what you do today is you are helping companies, and you are also speaking on a number of occasions in a number of contexts. We've actually done 2 sessions together talking about current and previous hacking. So hacking back then and hacking today, and I did cracking today and cracking back then. And we both concluded that hacking is the sort of the same, and cracking on the PC is sort of the same, but given now with central validation such as Steam, you can only play like a local copy. Anything that relies on a central entity is sort of useless. You cannot do that. So I guess the game industry realized a few things and changed the model, whereas general system development did not. You can still apply the same tricks that you did 25 years ago.
But okay, I'll be a little bit philosophical. I have 2 things to say. I'll start with the boring one.
Yep.
That speaking engagement that we did has actually resulted in we being invited to another event, which I think, have I actually talked to you about that?
No.
Okay, now you know. So in October, I think we are invited to another thing, but let's talk about that.
Great. Let's take that offline. But I'll say yes.
Okay, but from a philosophical point of view, it's also, I think when I say coding, when coding becomes a mass product, that's when we open up for these silly mistakes. Mass coding applications has been more prominent than mass coding games. I think the gaming industry has really exploded, but software development is something that we have had for a very long time. So now when gaming becomes a mass product, I believe that we will have more vulnerabilities in gaming. Specifically now when gaming is not just your local copy running on your own machine. Now you have multiplayer, and you have APIs, you have authentication, you have um, items that you can trade, you have value, of actual value on things that you want to, that you've, oh, I've gotten this shield or this sword because I killed the master dragon, and I'm going to sell this sword for $100 or whatever. It has an actual value. So cybercrime will of course go where their money is. And I also think that developers are just being mass producing games without actually looking into security so much.
Would you say that there is also, this is totally off script, but would you say that there is also the opportunity of having like an infected shield? So you can give away a shield, which is sort of injecting vulnerabilities, making your instance of that game into a potential zombie in a DDoS network.
I think that's happening all the time, but they don't call it vulnerabilities, but they call it mods. We've seen it in Minecraft, we've seen it in Roblox, where they do all kind of really crazy things like, oh, I have this block, and if I combine that with this block, and I combine that with this block and put it together in this specific order, I can fly. That is a vulnerability in the code that allows you to fly. It has nothing to do with the blocks itself, but now I'm just making this up. A negative value added to another negative value because of a plus. Whatever you call that,
a plus.
Positive value, and then you messes up with the.
But I was more into if I could make, if there are instances of kind of producing game instances as zombies in a DDoS network or anything like that.
In theory, you can, of course, if you can get, if you have any way to get that zombie or something to request data from an external source, then of course that should be possible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because what you referenced here that before is I would sell you my super shield for 1,000 euros because that will make you nobody can kill you if you hand me that shield, and then it's just fraud. So there is no money transaction. That's plain old fraud. That's selling something and never delivering it, and that happens all the time. And there is no difference if that is done in a digital age than selling a car and never deliver the car, or selling an apartment and never selling the apartment for real because you never had one in the first place. So
yeah, but also it depends on where the logic is. Like, I'll give you just one made up example. Like, let's say that you have an inventory list, and you have in your inventory list you have a normal crappy default shield, and that default shield has an item number of 1, but this super magical mega crazy shield has an item number of 666 or 1337 or whatever. If you can change the item value, then you can maybe change your shield or whatever. But if the logic is on your local machine, then so that opens up for some attack vectors. If the logic is on the server side, of course, then you need to have like a SQL injection, or you somehow modify the API request or whatever. But I just believe that since the gaming industry itself, I'm talking about the industry, has come to kind of the beginning of its transformation period. I believe that we will see much more software vulnerabilities. Look at the software vulnerabilities that we saw in old code for MS-DOS. How many buffer overflows do you think we saw in MS-DOS software compared to year 2000, when Adobe Acrobat Reader and Java and Shockwave and Flash and all that stuff kind of just broke the internet? There was, I mean, you could basically just send 1024, then plus 12 characters or whatever to a
Mm,
buffer, and it just crashed, or silly stuff when they started to teach development in universities, and all they did was super simple PHP and some JavaScript and
mm,
Java. And then you had people going to the university saying that they're developers, coming out to real world, getting a job as developer,
mm,
and they built web applications that was completely vulnerable, or
mm,
other software that was
mm.
vulnerable. Now we have the same thing in the gaming industry. So I believe if I have my little ball of for the future, that we will see the same thing in the gaming industry, specifically when we have VR gaming and mobile games and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, not sure. I think, to be honest, I think the gaming industry is more mature because it's been the technical pressure has been there, and people update on a more regular basis, which also makes it difficult. And I mean,
But
mm,
they're updating skins or whatever kind of crap. There has security, right?
mm,
Secure code
mm.
being a part of their development. My brother, I'm going to ask my brother. He's a gaming developer now. So
Okay.
yeah, so I'll just ask him. How often do you actually think about security when you code?
Yeah, I guess they are relying on the framework because the actual code is more talking to the rendering motor and stuff. So it's
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well,
Different topics.
let's go to Hackard because I think that was sort of I guess everybody who has any sort of interest in computers saw it, but I'm not really sure if it was seen by that many others. It was very educational and should be compulsory, but and it hit really big in amongst nerds, but. It seems like it didn't hit that big outside of our world, was it? Or
No, I mean when the TV show was released,
mm,
it was actually the most streamed show at that time, and we thought like, wow, we did something really cool.
mm,
But those numbers they just went straight up and then straight down basically, because then all the nerds just binged the show. And
mm,
luckily there's a lot of people that looks
mm,
so that works in IT and IT security who really enjoyed the show. But I don't think that you can compare it to, I don't know, Let's Dance or
mm. Yeah, of course not. No.
Lyxfällan or all these other
Mm,
super popular show, because then it's still a show where you have to kind of focus. You have
mm,
it's not like just looking at something and having it in the background. You have to sit there and actually look at what's
yeah.
happening, and I think that makes the difference. And then it is also not, well, I think it's funny. The other thing, I laugh sometimes when I saw the episodes, specifically when we hack this guy's home and we open up the
The
window
Sonos.
blinds, and it's just the house basically just starts into this disco, and it's music, and it's this complete nightmare in the house. That's funny.
Yeah.
I believe it's
No,
funny.
it was actually hilarious. Let's just take one step back. So, what this is a TV show. I think it's like 6 episodes, and in every episode, you and a team around you are given a task to sort of achieve something, hack this person's computer, or take over this company's network, or take over this person's home network, or whatever it was, and you have very little time and resources to your availability, and then there is sort of a going through how you approach this and the methods you are using. So sometimes it's technical, sometimes it's more social engineering. You have this where Jenny goes into this company that they are actually selling sort of software security as well, and she is doing measurements on humidity in the walls, and until she finds an Ethernet port, and then she plugs something into the Ethernet port, and bang, you now have a fixed location inside that, and then you can start to kind of hack your way around from this little thing that she injected somewhere.
Yeah, you're completely right. And the episode you said is 6 episodes, and every episode also puts a different angle on the consequences of IT security. So
Mm,
the first episodes we target individuals, like
mm,
private individuals,
mm,
and in the second episodes we're targeting housing company,
mm,
because if I hack a software development company or if I hack a factory, the hacking is different. You know, it's different
mm,
consequences, it's different methods, and we really wanted to demonstrate everything from how a company can be infected with ransomware to stealing data or your personal data being released on the internet. So different angles, not just six hacks. You know, it's
mm,
six different angles on
mm.
why you want to hack and what the consequences might be.
Is it available text in English, or so somebody not Swedish speaking could actually kind of have see
Yeah.
it?
So there's fan subs that Ginny did on GitHub.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So we can have a link down in the description below. So just send me the link and we will add that, of course, because that is very watchable. It's also super entertaining, especially this super tight security guy that does his home is his fortress, and you manage to get inside and start playing Mr. Saxo beat on his Sonuses at maximum volume, and the only thing that holds you back is the fact that your sound guy is having pain from how loud you play it inside their house.
Yeah, and everything's blinking. So this guy had his doorbell connected, his garage port, his jacuzzi, everything's like. So we wrote this script, and I think I can show you. Let us add a screenshot of the
Oh,
script where in the source code there's a house burning in moving ASCII art. So it's a death script which basically took all his entities in the Home Assistant server and
oh.
just randomize a 1 or a 0, just enable or disable the different things in his house and just
And his daughter came and said, Dad, can you lower the volume? It's not us, it's them.
yeah, that was it was actually more difficult to hack that guy
Yeah,
than hack some of the companies. And some of the companies that we hack is Telenor and Helsingborgshem
yeah,
and Longate. You know,
yeah,
that was yeah. It's more
yeah.
difficult to hack this guy than those.
So, David, I think that was everything we had in the script. Oh, no, there was this thing, the thing we should save until last. How do you design your perfect man cave?
Yeah, an
Because you
open
are actually in the
question.
process. So when we did the first recording, the background was your man cave thing, but now you are changing that into perfecting it.
Yeah, I'm basically removing everything,
Yeah.
like everything. I'm removing the walls, putting everything back in place, and that got me thinking. Like, specifically when we had to do this interview, it's like, how do you perfect your man cave?
Mm.
Do you do it in the same way as you know your room when you were a kid at home? You know, when you were 12 years old, you had posters on the wall with, I don't know, Samantha Fox or whoever, uh, and no, no.
No, my mom would never allow that. So
No, but I mean, do you do that kind of style in your man cave, or do you go full modern with, you know, laser projector and like, or what is considered as a man cave? For me, it's with all the technology, right? So I don't want to have a man cave with a pool table and beer. No, I want to have a man cave with my arcade machines, pinball, BBSs, VHS tapes. It's like it should be a man cave, but also an entertainment room. I
mm.
don't. What do you say, Pontus?
Yeah, pinball machines. I would really love to have a few pinball machines, but they are so service intense. So I guess that you need to be sort of a pinball engineer to have secondhand pinball machines. Otherwise, they wouldn't work, and if they don't work, that would be really bad. So I think I would like to have two Chesterfield chairs, and I don't, and a selection of whiskey, and a golf simulator that would also double as my video projector, and then I would have a wall of where I would have a C64. I have an Ultimate 64. I don't even have a real one connected. So
well, you know a few people who can hook you up. They will be shipped from the UK from someone's dad's apartment.
I do have them in my basement. I just don't have them connected. So I do have like 5-6 old machines with a large set of peripherals and all of that. But I do 99% of the work in emulators, and then I have my Ultimate. So I'm a really bad person when it comes to testing things on physical hardware.
I'm going completely bananas with the man cave because one of the walls you've been there down, but
Yeah,
now it's completely different. In one of the walls in one of the bigger rooms, the wall itself will be a custom Pac-Man maze. So the maze where Pac-Man goes and eats all the thing. Yeah, that maze will be built out of shelves with lighting and so on. So who will be the Pac-Man maze on the wall? The entire wall will be the maze, because for me it's a place where I can relate to my fetish, my fantasy, my Commodore and my geek stuff, but also a place where the kids can hang out. And so I still want to have, I'll have my Commodores, my Atari 2600 and my Intellivision, and I'll have all that. But I'll probably also have a PlayStation 5 and somewhere where I can stream Netflix, watch Blu-ray movies or whatever. So I'm trying to not go full on with only the retro stuff, but also combine it with the stuff that the kids can enjoy. Because then I also think that if our worlds meet, the chance that they will allow or adopt to that old technology is better than if it's only dad's man cave. When it's our room together, we can just disconnect the PlayStation and connect the Commodore and watch demos or play Bomberman or whatever.
Just a little warning, I don't think the waiting times that you fancy in BBSs or in tape loading might entertain them equally much. I mean, the 20 minutes loading of loading Pac-Man from tape, not sure the kids would go totally bonkers over that.
Oh, that's why I have a popcorn machine, so they can make the popcorn while we load Bomberman on tape.
Okay.
Well, I don't have to invite Mr. Z over, so the loading speed is a little bit faster with
Turbo 250. Yeah. Super cool, David. I would like to be. Tell me when you have like the opening night of your man cave. I will be in Skåne many times over the next upcoming years. So and popping over from Bonarp is probably an easy thing. So
well, end of May is the plan where all the people, all the carpenters, and all that handymans will be ready.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
of course, you're invited. Now you have it on tape and everything. You're invited
Yes.
to my annual party, Dunken.
Yes.
Yeah, of course you have to come to Dunken in Aarhus.
I will come to Dunken in Aarhus.
The best demo party in forever.
Yeah, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, is also from Aarhus, so we do have that little connection there as well.
Look, you know where I live. Just come over.
Yes, I do. Super nice, David. I think we should wrap up because we're now 1:45, and as much as we enjoy it, it might not be that everybody enjoys it forever. So it's been super nice talking to you again. So it might be that I accidentally delete this, so we have a good reason to talk again, but I will let you know.
Please do, man. Please do.
Thanks so much. All the best.
Thank you.
That was everything for today. Thank you so much to David Jacoby for participating and also for the patience of doing this twice. Yeah, that was a bit of a bummer to ask him to participate again. Ooh. Thank you so much again, and let's hope we will have another episode ready for you in a week from now on FairLight Friday. So, bye-bye.